Hi everyone, join me today as I paint this window and flower box using ink and watercolor. Supplies for today: I've got a pencil and eraser, I have a Uniball Signo white gel pen, a Lamy fountain pen, an Escoda Reserva size 4 round brush, and a 00 detail brush, a palette of paints, water, spray bottle, a palette for mixing, and tissue paper. The sketchbook I'm using is a Baohong 100% cotton cold pressed journal. They come in various sizes, but this one's pages are about 24 centimeters or 9.5 inches by about 16 centimeters or 6.25 inches. I'm going to start with my pencil sketch already on the page. You can find the link to the free traceable sketch reference in the description box below. This tutorial and all of its sketches and pictures of the final sketch can be found on my Patreon channel. You can join as a free member and have access to all of these references and video. I'm going to start by removing some of the graphite off my sketch using my kneaded eraser, just so that the pencil is a little bit lighter on the page. The pen I'm going to use today is a Lamy LX Fountain Pen, and it is filled with permanent black ink. You could just as easily do your pen work in something like a Pigma Micron pen. I would possibly use a black size 05, 03, 02, just depending on the size of your sketch. But I just haven't used my Lamy in a while, so I picked it up and I thought I would give it a go today. This Lamy LX Fountain Pen is currently fitted with a fine point nib, so it's going to make very thin lines on the page. I'm going to start by putting the outlines on the page using the fountain pen. I'm going to try and not be too formal, so I'm keeping you'll see how high of the pen I'm holding it, so that the lines are not dead straight and a little bit wobbly. And also you can see as I'm drawing the lines, I'm not drawing continuous lines. This paper is cold pressed paper, so it is a little bit textured in the first place, so the pitfalls in it help for the pen to skip over the top and make the lines non-continuous. But even if it weren't, I would lift my pen from time to time so that I don't have continuous lines all the way. It just makes your sketch a little bit more expressive and less like an architectural rendering. You don't have to do the pen outline if you don't want to. You can go straight into the watercolor if you would prefer not to have a pen outline. It really just comes down to personal choice. I always prefer to do most of the time at least, prefer to do my pencil lines first. I find that takes a little bit of time to get everything in the right place, but then that means that when it comes to the inking stage, as I'm doing here, I find that a lot more enjoyable because the perspective and the accuracy drawing is already done for me, and then I feel that I can actually get a little bit more expressive with my pen because I don't have to think about anything else. When it comes to outlining the flowers now, I want to retain their brightness and their freshness, so I don't want to do the full outline around each of the flowers, but I do just want to indicate whereabouts they kind of going to be. But I'm definitely making sure that my lines are broken as I draw in the position of the flowers. And the same for the outline of the greenery. I'm also going to make sure that those lines are broken. I find that the ink in a fountain pen takes a lot longer to dry than the ink from the Pigma Microns or a Unipen or something like that. I think because there's a bit more ink that comes out from the fountain pen. So I'm going to let this dry completely before I start my paintwork. My ink is completely dry now, and I have also erased some of the excess graphite lines. So now I'm ready to paint. I'm going to just have fun and use some of the colors I don't often use on my palette. So, but you can use any colors that you like, even if you don't have the same colors as I do. Just play around with it and choose whatever colors take your fancy. I'm going to work on the exterior wall first. I think I'm going to start with a buff titanium base to it, and then maybe add in some other colors to give it a bit of texture. So I'm going to prepare the buff titanium color first before I wet down the page. I'm going to work wet and wet, so I'm going to put some water down on the page first so that I can do some blending of colors. It doesn't matter that there is still some buff titanium on my brush. It's going to be incorporated into the sketch anyway, but I'm going to put some water down. I'm going to do a vignette here, which means that there's not going to be a definite edge. I'm just going to let the color blend outwards. If you wanted to tape 4 sides and make it a square or a rectangle and then have a definite end to your sketch, you can do that too. I'm just putting a bit of buff titanium into the water as I move around. It just helps me to see where I've laid the water down. There is also a wall here between the shutter and the window. It's already starting to dry around the beginning where I began, so I will start there again. So maybe I will drop some buff titanium in here and there. I'm trying to get a bit of a texture here, so I'm purposefully dotting it around randomly. Maybe I'll add a bit of Naples Yellow. I'll just add it into the color that's already on my palette. And then also just dot it around and let the colors all blend and talk to each other. Now I'm going to grab a bit of neutral tint just to get a bit of darker color texture in the wall. Maybe I'll start by putting it here where there might be a little bit of shadow. And then I'm just going to take it off my brush so that there's not too much, but I do want to have a bit of a stippled textured look due to the grey. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let the wall dry entirely, because I think there's too much chance that I'll put my hand down in it and smudge the colors elsewhere in the painting or elsewhere on the page. So as soon as I finish this here, I'm going to let this dry entirely, and I'm probably just going to use my hairdryer to dry it all off before I carry on. I'm just lifting up some of the grey here. I think it's got a little bit dark in places. Alright, I'm going to let that dry. Alright, that's pretty much dry now. I'm going to do a plain coloured buff titanium on the top here. I imagine that this would be kind of a cement top to it. And maybe I will add just the tiniest bit of dirtiness to it, just for the smallest bit of texture, so it's not all the same colour. Now for the shutters, I was thinking I wanted something blue. I see there's this Phthalo Turquoise that I have that I hardly ever use. I don't want it to be too bright, but it just was a colour that caught my eye in the palette that I haven't used in a while. Yeah, I think as a watered down, I think that's going to be a nice colour for the shutter. So I'm going to use a Phthalo Turquoise. I'll just start by doing the same colour over the whole shutter, and I'll worry about shadows and so on in an additional layer. Then I think I'll work on some of the greenery in the flower box. So I want to try and avoid the flowers as much as possible. So I'm going to try and work around them. I'll start with a sap green over all the greenery, and then I'll try and add in some other greens to give some depth and texture. Now there I've gone and I've filled that one in. I guess I could move to a smaller brush if I wanted to. But anyway, I'm going to still just try and work around the flowers. I'm using this sap green quite watered down so that the layer stays wet, so that I can drop in some other colors and before it dries. I'm just dropping some more color in here just in case it's dried a little bit. So now I'm going to thicken up that sap green. And then I'm going to add some raw umber to it to darken it up. That makes a nice darker green. And I'm going to dot that up around the green to get some difference in texture, particularly at the bottom. And then just a little bit all around, just so that the green color is not the same throughout. And maybe whilst it's still wet, I might try and brighten up some of the lighter bits with some yellow. This is Azo Yellow, but you could use a Hunter Yellow light or something like that. I'm going to drop that in, particularly along the top of the green area. That'll be the parts of the leaves catching the light. And then just dot it in here and there throughout. Alright, I don't want to overwork these leaves, so I'm going to let that all dry. I want to work on the interior of the windows now, and I want to give the impression of the sky being reflected in the windows with maybe some trees or something as well. So I'm going to use Cerulean Blue. I'm going to drop that into all of the window panes first. Maybe I'll reserve a little space here and there where I'm going to put the green in. So what I'll do is mix up some very light sap green and drop that in here. And just let them meet and talk to each other. I probably should have done this wet and wet because I don't want a firm edge between the colors here. Maybe I'll do that on the right hand window. I'm just going to add some more blue here just so that there's a bit more blending. Alright, let me prepare those colors for the window on the right hand side. But maybe what I'll do is just put a little bit of water in each window first, just so that I don't get any hard edges to the colors. I don't want the water pooling at all, I just want a light glisten on the page, just so that there's a bit of blending. Alright, let me pick up that Cerulean Blue again. And then I'll pick up the Sap Green. Every bit of support that my YouTube videos get help me to grow my channel. And supporting me doesn't have to cost you anything. If you are enjoying this video, please click the like button below. Let me know what you think in the comments, and also let me know the sorts of videos that you would like to see in the future. I would love to hear from you. And then for the pot below, I want it to be a terracotta colored pot. So I'm going to get burnt sienna, just water that down a little bit, and then put it in for the pot. Now that that base color is there, I'm going to pick up this burnt sienna in a thicker consistency, and I'm going to drop it in underneath the flowers, just to get a bit of a shadow. And then I'm just going to clean and drive my brush a bit and lift the color from the bottom, just so that I do preserve that shadow area that I have created underneath the greenery. So I'll just lift it a bit and then tap off my brush. That'll lift the excess color there that I don't want. Alright, let me think about my flowers. I'm going to dip into my Rose Madder Permanent. That's a lovely pinkish color, and I'm going to drop that in. You can use more than one color for your flowers if you wish. Keep in mind they would probably be in little bunches, so if you wanted to do some pink here and then change it to yellow or something like that, then they'd probably be in little clusters of the same color. I'm using this fairly concentrated, as you can see, because I really want this pink color to pop and not to just disappear into the green. So I'm just mixing it with the smallest bit of water to keep the vibrancy of the color. And now with this very bright pink in the mix, I'm going to let this all dry completely so that I don't smudge this pink somewhere else onto my painting. I'm going to do some shadow work now, and in order to do that, I'm going to move to my smaller 00 brush so that I can get in some detailed work. I'm going to mix up the Phthalo Turquoise now in a thicker consistency, and I'm going to put some in on the side. If you are enjoying this tutorial and are gaining value from it, please consider making a small donation to me on my Buy Me a Coffee platform. As you can imagine, these tutorials take many hours of work to put together. I appreciate any and all donations as they help me to continue building this platform. And then I'll put some in down below. Then on each of the shutters I'm going to preserve a very thin light line at the top of each, but then fill in a shadow color on the bottom section of each slat. As I mentioned earlier, I have launched my Patreon channel. You can join my Patreon for free and have access to all of my YouTube videos and reference sketches, photos and pictures there. You are under no obligation to become a paid Patreon member, but from time to time I will release some paid watercolor classes that you might find of interest. Joining my Patreon will keep you abreast of all of my classes, free and paid. Then I'm going to go and repeat exactly the same thing on the other shutter. It's quite time-consuming work, as you can see, but I think it really does add some nice dimension to the sketch. I have got a Facebook group that I would love for you to join. Its name is Christine McLaren Art. This is a space where members like you can upload and share pictures of your completed tutorials. I love to see the finished tutorials of all of my followers. So if you complete this tutorial, please post a picture in my Facebook group for me to see. Facebook is a bit confusing, but I also have a Facebook page. This is the place where I share links to my videos. So just to be safe, why not go ahead and like and join both the Facebook page and group? Then you won't miss a thing and I will be able to see your finished artworks. Now I'm going to add some shadow that the greenery would cast on the pot below. I'm just going to use this color that I've already got on my palette and then just include some shadow underneath. And then maybe some cast shadow on the wall. And then I'll do a bit of a shadow of the flower box. Now I'm going to shadow the inside of this wall that the window is recessed into. This color that I've got here, the buff titanium shadow color, is essentially would be the color that's cast here because it's that wall that we did in the buff titanium earlier. So I'm going to use that color first and see if I want to add anything more to that. Alright, now I'm going to mix up, maybe there'll be enough here, I don't need to mix up more. I just want to do some cast shadow of the shutter onto the wall. That really does make it look like the shutter is away from the wall. I'm going to do the same for the shutter on the other side. Now what I think I'm going to do is the wall that is overhanging the window here would cast a shadow on the window itself. So I'm going to pick a line and draw a bit or fill in a bit of shadow that the top of the window would cast on the window panes. Doesn't feel entirely straight. Alright, that's good enough. Now I'm going to do, in my mind the light is coming from the top right, so this inner window would cast a bit of a shadow on the inside of this pane here as well. And I want this to come out of the wall a little bit. I'm just going to do a cast shadow over here. I want to intensify the shadow over the sort of lintel here, but if I do it now it's going to blend into the shadow that I've got on the window. So I'm going to let this dry and come back in and do that. What I don't want to do now is I just want to separate the shadow that I've got here with the shadow that will be under the lintel. Under the lintel will be slightly darker because it's underneath. So I'm going to just add some neutral tint to the shadow color that I've already got here. And I'm just going to do this area underneath. Just maybe a little bit too dark. I'm just going to water that down a bit. And then this side would also be in shadow if the sun is coming from the top right. And then this just down to where the shadow begins over there. That separates the two nicely now. And then what I'm going to do, I've got a white gel pen. This is completely optional. I just want to lift and brighten these flowers a little bit. So I'm going to add some white to their centers. Just getting the gel pen to wake up, because sometimes it can be a little bit tacky at the beginning. And I'm going to do a little white spot here and there inside the flowers, and also throughout the greenery. I think that makes that all look a little bit brighter and fresher. You could also use white gouache or something like that. Yeah, and I don't think I want to overwork it. I'm happy with that as a lovely little sketch of a window. And there's the final sketch. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button. Until next time, bye for now.